The financial narrative that has defined your life is about to be completely rewritten. Every chapter of struggle, every page of barely making it, every paragraph of stress and worry about money, God is closing that book forever and opening a brand new one with a completely different story. This isn't going to be a minor edit or a small improvement to your current financial situation. This is a total rewrite where the ending looks nothing like the beginning, where the conclusion bears no resemblance to the introduction, where your testimony will leave people asking, is this really the same person? I know you've been living in a financial story that feels permanent. Maybe it's a story of generational poverty, where everyone in your family has struggled financially for as long as you can remember. Maybe it's a story of constant debt, where you work hard but can't seem to get ahead. Maybe it's a story of missed opportunities, where doors that should have opened for you remained closed. Maybe it's a story of financial setbacks, where just when you think you're making progress, something happens that puts you back to square one. Whatever your financial story has been up until this point, God is announcing today that it's ending and a completely new story is beginning. The old story wasn't the story God wrote for you. It was a chapter the enemy tried to make your entire book. Satan wanted you to believe that financial struggle was your identity, that lack was your destiny, that poverty was your inheritance. He wanted you convinced that some people are just meant to have money problems and you're one of them. He wanted you to accept financial stress as normal and give up on the idea that things could ever really change. But that narrative is a lie, and God is exposing it today by showing you the real story He wrote for you before you were even born. In God's original story for your life, provision is abundant, resources are plentiful, and financial stress is absent. In His version, you're not constantly worried about money. You're confidently stewarding it. You're not drowning in debt. You're overflowing with blessing. You're not barely surviving. You're abundantly thriving. You're not the one always needing help. You're the one with resources to help others. This is the story God intended, the narrative He designed, the financial reality He created you to experience. And He's rewriting your current situation to align with His original plan. Let me tell you how drastically your financial story is about to change. Your income story is changing from barely enough to more than enough. Right now, you might be stretching every dollar, calculating every expense, stressed about making it from paycheck to paycheck. But your new story includes raises you didn't ask for, bonuses you didn't expect, promotions you didn't pursue, opportunities that pay significantly more than your current position, and multiple streams of income that create financial margin you've never experienced before. Your debt story is changing from overwhelming burden to supernatural cancellation. Bills that have haunted you for years are about to be resolved in ways you never imagined. Credit cards that seemed like they'd never be paid off are about to be eliminated. Loans that felt like life sentences are about to be satisfied. Medical bills that crushed you are about to be forgiven. Student debt that followed you for decades is about to be released. God is not just giving you extra money to slowly pay down debt. He's canceling obligations supernaturally and freeing you completely. Your saving story is changing from empty accounts to growing reserves, where you currently have nothing set aside for emergencies, nothing saved for the future, nothing invested for tomorrow. Your new story includes accounts that grow instead of deplete, emergency funds that cover unexpected expenses without stress, investments that appreciate and produce returns, and financial cushions that give you options instead of leaving you desperate. Your generosity story is changing from wishing you could give to joyfully giving abundantly. Right now, you might see needs you want to meet, but can't because you barely have enough for yourself. But your new story includes blessing people spontaneously because you have the resources, supporting ministries generously because you're not living in lack, helping family members significantly because money isn't tight, and funding kingdom projects substantially because God has made you a conduit of blessing rather than just a recipient. Your peace story is changing from constant financial anxiety to supernatural confidence. Where you currently lose sleep over money, where you feel stressed when bills arrive, where you panic about unexpected expenses, your new story includes sleeping soundly because you know God has you covered, opening bills without fear because you have provision, facing expenses calmly because you trust in divine supply, and living with financial confidence because you've experienced God's faithfulness repeatedly. But I need to prepare you for what happens when God rewrites your financial story this dramatically. First, not everyone will celebrate the new chapters with you. Some people were comfortable with you being in the same financial struggle they're in because it validated their own situation. When your story changes and you start prospering, some will get jealous, some will get critical, some will distance themselves, and some will even speak against you. This is painful, but it's part of the process. Keep loving them, keep blessing them, but don't let their response to your blessing stop you from receiving what God has for you. Second, you're going to have to unlearn old financial mindsets and learn new ones. You've been thinking in terms of scarcity for so long that abundance is going to feel strange at first. You've been operating in survival mode for so long that you need to learn how to thrive. You've been conditioned to lack for so long that you need to rewire your thinking for overflow. This mental shift is part of the story rewrite. Be patient with yourself during the adjustment. Let God renew your mind as He changes your circumstances. Third, with a new financial story comes new financial responsibility. More resources means more stewardship. Greater blessing means greater accountability. Increased income means increased opportunity to impact others. God isn't just changing your story so you can live comfortably. He's repositioning you as a distributor of His provision. Your new story includes being generous to people in need, supporting kingdom work significantly, and using money as a tool for ministry rather than an idol to worship. Now let me tell you what triggers God to rewrite someone's financial story. First, consistent faithfulness in the season of lack. When you honored God with your finances, even when you barely had enough, when you still gave even when you were in need, when you maintained integrity even when shortcuts would have been easier, you were qualifying yourself for a different story. God was watching your faithfulness with little, and based on what He saw, He approved you for more. Second, maintained worship despite financial pressure. When you praised God, even when the bank account was empty, when you worshiped, even when bills were overdue, when you remained grateful, even when finances were tight, you proved that your relationship with God wasn't contingent on comfortable circumstances. This worship in the wilderness positioned you to receive blessing in the promised land without it corrupting your devotion. Third, generosity toward others when you were in need yourself. When you helped people even though you needed help. When you blessed others even though you were struggling. When you gave even though you were going without. You activated a spiritual principle that God must honor. The measure you used for others is the measure God will use for you. And because you are generous in lack, He's about to be generous to you in overflow. Fourth, refusal to compromise integrity for money. When you had opportunities to make money through questionable means, but chose integrity instead. When you could have lied or cheated for financial gain, but remained honest. When you could have manipulated people for profit, but stayed ethical. You proved that your character is more valuable to you than cash. God can trust people like that with wealth because He knows it won't corrupt them. Fifth, patience during the waiting period. You could have given up. You could have become bitter. You could have blamed God for the delay. But instead, you kept believing, kept trusting, kept standing on His promises even when nothing seemed to change. That endurance proved you're ready for the new story God is writing, because you won't crumble under the pressure that comes with blessing or abandon Him when life gets good. Here's what you need to do to position yourself for your financial story rewrite. Start speaking your new story into existence before you see it manifest. Stop narrating your current financial struggle and start declaring your coming financial breakthrough. My financial story is being rewritten. Lack is ending and abundance is beginning. Debt is being canceled and provision is flowing. Stress is lifting and peace is settling. God is completely changing my financial reality. Your words create atmosphere for manifestation. Stop rehearsing your past financial failures and start envisioning your future financial success. Don't keep telling people about how broke you are, how much you're struggling, how impossible your situation is. Instead, testify about what God is about to do. I don't understand how it's going to happen, but I know God is changing my financial story. Breakthrough is coming. Doors are opening. Provision is on the way. Faith speaks about the future as if it's already done. Begin making practical preparations for the new financial story God is writing. Update your resume for the better job that's coming. Research business ideas for the entrepreneurial opportunity God is about to give you. Learn about investing for the surplus you're about to steward. Create a budget that includes giving, saving, and wise spending for the increased income that's approaching. These preparations aren't presumptuous, they're faith in action. Forgive everyone who hurt you financially in the old story. If you carry people from the old story into the new one through unforgiveness and bitterness, they'll contaminate the new chapters. Let them go. Release the offenses. Forgive the debts they owe you emotionally, even if they never pay you back literally. Your freedom from them is more valuable than your revenge against them. Position yourself in environments where the new story you're entering is normal. If you stay in spaces where poverty is glorified and struggle is expected, you'll have a hard time adjusting to the abundance God is releasing. Find a church that teaches biblical prosperity. Connect with people who believe God for financial breakthrough. Surround yourself with testimonies of God's provision. Let faith-filled environments reinforce the new story God is writing. Let me prophesy over your financial story right now. The old story is closing today. The final chapter of lack has been written. The last page of struggle has been turned. A completely new book is opening with your name on it, and the story inside is so different from what you've been living that you won't even recognize your own life a year from now. This new story includes income you never expected from sources you didn't anticipate. It includes debt canceled that you thought was permanent. It includes savings growing that you thought would stay empty. It includes generosity flowing that you thought wasn't possible. It includes peace settling that you thought you'd never experience. It includes testimony building that will strengthen faith in everyone who hears it. Within the next 12 months, your financial situation will look completely different than it does today. Where there is lack today, there will be abundance. Where there is debt today, there will be freedom. Where there is stress today, there will be peace. Where there is barely enough today, there will be more than enough. This is your new story, and nothing can stop God from writing it into your reality. Receive this word. Believe this word. Prepare for this word. Your financial story is being completely rewritten, and the testimony you're about to have will give glory to God and build faith in everyone who hears it. Your transformation is going to be so dramatic that people will study your story. They'll ask you what happened, how things changed so quickly, what you did differently. And you'll have only one answer. God rewrote my financial story. He took what the enemy meant for permanent poverty and turned it into temporary preparation for permanent prosperity. He took what looked like endless struggle and transformed it into a testimony of His faithfulness. He took a narrative of lack and rewrote it as a testimony of abundance. The timeline for this rewrite is shorter than you think. You've been struggling for years, maybe decades, and you might assume the change will take equally long. But when God rewrites a story, He can do in days what would normally take years. He can shift in months what should take decades. He can transform overnight what you thought would take a lifetime. Don't limit God's ability to accelerate His promises based on how long the struggle lasted. The length of your wilderness doesn't determine the length of your transition into the promised land. Remember that every character in your old financial story served a purpose. The job that underpaid you taught you to value people over paychecks. The debt that stressed you taught you to depend on God rather than credit. The lack that limited you taught you to be creative with little, so you would be wise with much. The struggle that stretched you built character that comfort never could have produced. Nothing was wasted. Every chapter, even the painful ones, prepared you for the story God is writing now. As you step into your new financial story, carry the lessons from the old one, but leave the limitations behind. Take the faithfulness you learned, but leave the fear. Take the perseverance you developed, but leave the poverty mindset. Take the worship you maintained, but leave the worry. Take the generosity you practiced, but leave the guilt. You're not forgetting where you came from. You're just refusing to let it define where you're going. Stand firm in faith as God rewrites your financial story. The enemy will try to convince you it's too good to be true, that people like you don't experience this kind of turnaround, that you should lower your expectations to avoid disappointment. Reject those lies. Your God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or think. He's not limited by your history, your mistakes, or your circumstances. He specializes in rewriting impossible stories into incredible testimonies. Prepare your heart to handle the new story with humility and gratitude. When the blessing flows, when the provision manifests, when the breakthrough arrives, remember who made it happen. Give God all the glory. Share your testimony to build faith in others. Use your resources to advance His kingdom. Live as a grateful steward of His goodness rather than an entitled owner of His blessings. Your financial story is being completely rewritten. The pen is in God's hand. The pages are turning. The old narrative is ending. The new testimony is beginning. And when the book of your life is finally complete, this chapter will be the one everyone remembers. The chapter where God proved His faithfulness, demonstrated His power, and completely changed your financial story forever.